Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So perhaps it's because this is material that I have been teaching for the past couple of weeks in a number of different forums, or perhaps it's because we've just come off of a political season and campaigning, but I feel the need to talk about truth. I consider this sermon sort of a metaphoric mikveh for all that we've been through, honestly, the past month, but that's just me. But to speak about truth is not such a surprising thing from a Jewish perspective, because truth is a core, foundational trait and value within our tradition. Within the Shalosh Esrei Midot, within the 13 attributes of God, among those listed is emet, truth. For our tradition understands that truthfulness is really an inherent part of what it is to be divine. We read in the psalmist when he writes about how truth will spring forth from the very earth. And we have the rabbis who declare that God's signature, God's seal, God's emblem is that of truth. And therefore, although we call it by many things, one of the most important ways that we refer to Torah is we refer to it as a Torah emet, a teaching of truth. With this emphasis on truth that we find throughout our tradition, it should not be a surprise that when we read about biblical characters who lie, as they do in this week's Torah portion, that they get punished. We would expect nothing less from a tradition that identifies truth as an essential quality of the divine. And sure enough, we see it in this week's Torah portion, and it's not a surprise. And I suspect many of us know exactly the story that I'm referring to. It is the story of Jacob's deception of his blind father Isaac. As I said, I suspect many of us are aware of this story. It's almost got a folk popularity to it that extends far beyond just the Jewish community. But we find within this story that Isaac, sensing the nearness of his own death, calls to his son Esau, and he says to him, "My son, I'm going to bless you. Go make that tasty dish that I love so much. Bring it to me, and I will bestow upon you my most innermost blessing." And so Esau goes out to hunt and to cook and to prepare. But Rebekah, his mother, overheard the conversation, got Jacob quickly to go to the flocks, get a lamb that she prepared. She then put the lamb skin on him. She put on him Esau's clothing. And Jacob then went in his stead and presented before Isaac the meal that he so desired. And Isaac was doubtful. He knew the voice wasn't Esau's, but he touched him, and he smelled him, the smell of the field. And so he let himself overlook the fact that the voice was not the same. And he gave him the blessing. And as you know, just as Jacob is leaving, who comes in? Esau. And the deception is uncovered. And Esau realizes that Jacob has stolen this most precious moment from him and from his father. Now, I noted that there was lying in this week's Torah portion, and I also noted that they're going to get punished for this, as we would expect for a tradition that prizes truth. And sure enough, they do get punished. Right? Think about it. How does Jacob get punished? What happens to Jacob? Where does he get his comeuppance for having lied and deceived in this manner? Right. When he goes to marry Leah. He goes to marry Rachel, and he ends up marrying Leah. And what's so interesting is exactly how did his conniving uncle pull off this deception? What did he use? He used a veil, right? So just as Jacob deceived using clothing, so too he himself is deceived. In fact, it appears that the Torah finds Jacob's deception so problematic, he's not deceived just once using clothing, he's deceived twice. When's the second time? I'm sorry? With Joseph, exactly. Joseph's brothers take that magnificent coat, and they will stain it with blood and bring it to the father and say to Jacob, "Is this your son's?" So Jacob will receive 2 sets of punishments for deceiving his father in this way. And he will receive him in a manner that is so similar to exactly the way he deceived. And who else gets punished in this? Rebekah. Jacob wasn't the only one who participated in this deception. In fact, Rebekah was the mastermind behind it. She's the one who overheard the conversation between Isaac and Esau. She is the one who said, "Go do this, follow my instruction." And she is the one who said, "If you be cursed, let that curse fall upon me." Now, how is it that Rebekah is punished? Of the 2 boys, which one did Rebekah love? Jacob. Right. What did you say, Rita? And her punishment is that because of this deception, this will place such enmity in Esau's heart that he comforts himself with the thought of killing his brother. Finding out about this, Rebekah is forced to send Jacob away, the one that she loves. She must send away, and if one at least follows the Torah for what it says, she never sees him again, ever. That is her punishment for lying. Now, all of this is quite dramatic. It reflects a well-known biblical principle of midah keneged midah, of measure for measure. And it's not surprising, as I said, for a tradition that prizes truth as much as ours, that such lying would be punished. The only problem is, in the chapter before, Isaac lies. Go figure. And how does Isaac lie? He goes to Gerar. He settles in Gerar because there is famine in his part of the land, but God tells him explicitly, don't go down to Egypt. And so he settles in Gerar along the coast. And he comes across a king named Avimelech, same king that Abraham encountered a generation before. And not the same king, the same name. And he will use the same ruse that his father used in hiding who Rebekah really is. He will say that Rebekah is my sister, for he fears that the people of the region will look at Rebekah, look at her beauty, and decide she's beautiful enough that it's worth killing him. And so he lies outrightly, and he gets caught. For after a period of time, he gets a little sloppy in protecting and covering his lie, and the king sees him playing with Rebekah. And let us just say that this is the kind of play that brothers and sisters do not engage in. And so the king knew right away that this was not his sister, and he called him on it. And Isaac will come clean. And what is the punishment that befalls Isaac for lying? Nothing. There is no punishment for this particular lie. And this, in fact, is even reinforced by the fact that this is the same lie that Abraham, his father, tells not once, but twice. Once to the king of Gerar, once to the king of Egypt. He tells the exact same lie about Sarah, and he is not punished. The Torah never indicates or gives us any sense of any condemnation of this lie. So, my friends, we are faced with a conundrum. We are faced with a conundrum. Here our tradition prizes truth, values truth, speaks of truth in glorious, divine tones. And sure, we see one lie that is punished. But here we have another lie that is not punished. How do we reconcile this? I will suggest the following. I will suggest that Judaism has and holds to but only one absolute. And that absolute is that there is one God. After that, everything is up for grabs. Everything depends on the context that one is in. And Judaism understands that. Judaism understands that, yes, in certain circumstances, under certain conditions, it is, in fact, quite appropriate to lie. But what are those conditions, we might ask, that we can do this? How can we justify lying? Well, we have some good examples as